You're listening to Making Money Online with Lisa Johnson, the podcast that tells you what it really takes to build a business and the simple steps to get you there. I'm determined to share with you the reality of easy, simple business marketing tips to make passive income so that you can start making money online. Making Money Online is sponsored by Nicola J. Rowley PR, helping entrepreneurs and brands get visible through strategic storytelling. If you're serious about being seen and impacting the lives of others, harnessing the power of PR is the best way to grow and scale your business. Visit njrpr.com for more details and read Nicola's best-selling book, The Power of PR. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Making Money Online. And today I'm going to talk to you about messaging. When we talk about messaging, we're really talking about who you are and what you do, which sounds like the most simple thing in the world to be able to tell people. But we just know that that's not true and that lots of people get this bit wrong. So I have a guest with me today who's an expert on this. Jaimie Sarah is here. Jaimie helps service-based experts to really nail their messaging, their positioning and their magnetism so that they bring in the perfect clients for them. Welcome to the podcast, Jaimie.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
So let's start with, because I want to really get into your own messaging and how you started doing what you do now. So tell me what brought you to kind of entrepreneur world.
So I was living and working in New York. I had got my dream job over there in corporate marketing for Thomson Reuters. I was living the life, really enjoying my role. I was working in strategic and content marketing, but I kind of yearned to help a wider range of businesses with their marketing. And then I started helping entrepreneurs through this group called House of Genius. So I was kind of advising them in the evenings, just on a voluntary basis. One day I bumped into a coach on the subway.
It's always the way.
Nose to armpit kind of vibe. And I started coaching with her and I started thinking, this is quite interesting and I think I could do this. Then trained to be a coach, got totally addicted to coaching, also was doing my practice coaching, in the classrooms and things, and everyone kept bursting into tears being coached by me. And I thought, I'm onto something here. And so I left my job. Initially, I had no intention of continuing to do marketing at that point because I'd gone so deep into the coaching bubble. And so I just wanted to actually help high achievers become happier and feel more aligned in themselves. But very, very quickly, I started to notice that there were patterns in terms of my clients were already calling on my marketing expertise. They knew my background and they would ask me for advice on their personal brands, advice for things they were doing in their corporate marketing. And so it's evolved a lot over the last 6 years. And now it is very much about the marketing.
Did you know your message and your positioning straight away?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
How long did it take you to nail it?
My messaging in the beginning was I very initially, I called myself a life coach. Even though I was helping people with their messaging, positioning, magnetism from the very beginning, I called myself a life coach. Then I called myself a success coach. Then I called myself an executive coach. I came up with this method called the 360-degree coherence method, which was about helping high and ultra high achievers to have alignment in every single area of their life. And I realized that wasn't it. Then in 2018, I came up with the Aligned Business Blueprint, which was around aligning your niche services, offers, messaging, and mindset. And I realized quite quickly that was still too broad. That was still too many things. And then shortly after that, niched in further. And it's only been in the last sort of 2-ish years that I feel completely and utterly in my zone of genius. And that, even though I've been helping others with messaging all along, that I feel completely and utterly aligned with my messaging, which is kind of ironic, really.
Yeah, but not uncommon, that it takes people a while. And I think the reason it takes people a while to find their messaging is because of niching. I think when people first do anything, they don't want to pigeonhole themselves. And we talk about niching a lot. And, they want to be able to help lots of different people. But the more and more they're in this kind of world, they realize that the more you can niche, the more you really are going to nail your messaging, because then you're just helping one type of person with one type of problem. And so those people are always going to go to you. And that's what you do now. And you, with everything you say, the word alignment always comes up. I think it's been in your messaging since I first knew you a few years ago, like the word alignment's always there. What does alignment mean to you?
So alignment to me means being aligned with what you enjoy, being aligned with your zone of genius, being aligned with also what your ideal client wants and speaking in their language, and being able to create things that meet their needs, not just that feel good to you, because it's all very well creating stuff that feels aligned to you, but if it's not also aligned with your ideal client, it's not going to get you very far. And I think it's also about having a really strong mindset. There's no such thing as a perfect mindset, as you talk about all the time. Mindset's an ongoing work in progress. I think that's such an important thing to raise awareness of. But it's knowing that you are pursuing continual alignment in your mindset so that your mindset and your mission are kind of matching.
And so does it all start with mission? Should that be where people like first go to when they're first thinking, right, I really need to get my messaging sorted. I want to be able to tell people in an elevator pitch exactly what I do. Where does it start?
I think it starts with looking at what's your zone of genius already. If your zone of genius is something completely different than the message that you want to create, I think there's more work to be done experientially in terms of expanding your skill set and acknowledging that that's an important thing to do, because you want to be in integrity. You don't want to have a message that doesn't match your expertise or doesn't match your experience. So I think that's one of the most important things that not many people talk about. And then also, thinking about, okay, if I picture my ideal client, what do I want them to have after coming into contact with me, after working with me? What do I want to make available to them? I'm really connecting with that on both an intellectual level and a heart level as well.
Whenever you talk about messaging, positioning, alignment, you have a spiritual slant to it that is quite different from how other people in the kind of spiritual sphere online talk about it. Why do you think that is?
I think I experienced when I first started, you mentioned a little bit earlier around having fear around niching in, right? And I totally had that in the beginning. And that's why I had my messaging be much more vague, even though the work I was doing with clients was really specific, because of that fear and that wanting to serve everyone. And when I was kind of in that space, a lot of my marketing content was actually really fluffy. And so I didn't experience the kind of acceleration. I still was creating success and people were impressed with what I was creating and people looked up to me and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't experience anywhere near the level of success that I should have done at that point. And it's because I was putting out stuff that was a bit too spiritual. And I learned over time, hang on, I'm actually not just a spiritual person. I am at this intersection of spiritual and practical, and I'm both things, and they're both really important. And once I actually started fixing my own content and portraying both sides of me in my content, I saw a big acceleration in attracting the absolute ideal clients I wanted to be working with. They had more respect for me. They were willing to pay me more, all of that kind of stuff. So I am really passionate about both of them.
Because we're multi-layered, aren't we? And I think sometimes when we go online, and I talk about this in my Visible program quite a lot, we feel like we have to do what other people are doing, show what other people are showing, like just talk about the thing that we're really good at. But actually, I massively believe in secondary messaging, and the thing that gets you known and gets people to relate to you and want to work with you is often that other side to you that you might keep a little bit hidden. And with you, that's like your spiritual side. Like, when you start putting that out there, then other people who are going to choose between someone to help them with their messaging, like there's lots of people that can help with messaging, but they're more likely to resonate with you because they're a little bit spiritual and they like the intersection between the practical and the spiritual. It's really important that we all do that. Like, we all think about what else is there in us? What else do we want to talk about? Like, let's not just make everything we talk about the thing we can do. Imagine if all I spoke about was passive income. It would make me very two-dimensional, and none of us are.
Yeah, and the thing is people, you're a great example, because people love you just as much for your sharing your travel adventures and sharing your everything you're up to with your family. You know, every single time you post something where you're with your family, like my heart feels more and more and more connected to you. And that's what we want to create.
Yeah, we want to create a whole ecosystem about you rather than just this two-dimensional figure of you. So when you're helping people with their messaging, with their positioning, what mistakes do you see people making over and over?
I see people sometimes being overly attached to how they talked about themselves previously, or overly attached to who they served previously when it's not actually their ideal client. And sometimes there's codependency stuff and rescuing stuff underneath that on a mindset level, where they feel like, oh, but these people need me. And it's like, well, okay, yeah, cool. They might need you, but are they willing to pay you, you know, what you want to charge? And is it going to be a win-win, or are you just going to continually feel drained, right? And I think we can both relate to having done that at times in the past.
Yeah, well, I think it's really difficult not to do that when you care about what you do, because you're always going to want to help those people that can't afford you. Yeah. And I don't mean that can't, you know, people always say, well, everyone can afford you. Like that's just an excuse because they don't want to work with you. I don't agree with that. I think some people don't have any money and they can't afford you, because I've been in that position. And so when people can't afford you, you still want to help them, because your mission is rarely ever, the biggest driver is rarely ever money. It is one of them, but it's rarely ever the biggest. And so it's really hard to turn people down. And I think that the best way to help people get around that is to have some free stuff and then have some paid stuff.
Exactly. Free and low cost stuff is a great way to give to the people who aren't ready for you yet. Either aren't ready for you in terms of their mindset, their energy, or aren't ready for you financially, or both.
I totally see how that's a mistake that people make, and how they cling on to who they served before, because you feel like if you've done all this work and people know you for serving those type of people, then you don't want to then suddenly change, because you're going to sort of have to do all the work again and grow a new audience.
Yeah, and I've experienced that myself as well. So I know what it feels like when you're afraid of letting those people go, and you're like, oh, I'll just have 2 or 3 people still doing that thing. And it's like, no, it's okay. It's safe for you to surrender fully into who you are truly here to serve, how you're here to serve them, what your message really is. And there's more than enough clients for you in that niche, in that zone of genius. And your brain will sometimes try and tell you otherwise. But the more specific you are with your messaging, the more you go all in, the easier it is to attract those people, even if it's a narrower segment of the audience.
Yeah, because that narrower segment will only come to you. Yeah. And that's really where positioning comes in as well. Like when we were talking about alignment, alignment doesn't just mean kind of like what you enjoy and things you want to do. But if you want, like people talk about high ticket as an example of this all the time. Like, I want to charge really high prices. Everything has to be in alignment with that. You can't just add a zero.
Yes. Yeah, you can't just wake up one day. I remember in 2017, I had a coach. And at the time I was charging like $3,000 or something for a 3-month program. And he was like, right, I want you to come up with 100K offer. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I wasn't ready.
Nothing's changed, by the way, between 2017 and now. Like everybody has decided they should have 100K offer. No one really knows why they're doing it, but they feel like they need to right now because everybody else is. Which brings us nicely onto the final topic that I want to talk to you about. Like a lot of our private conversations are to do with us both becoming slightly exasperated with the integrity in this online world. We both have quite similar views about it, and so you end up going and speaking to the people that you know see the things that you see. What are you seeing like are the biggest integrity issues right now in this online space?
I think that the thing is, no human being on earth is perfect.
Correct.
And we all have things that we're working on, and you know, things about us that we would like to change. And hopefully if there are things about us that we'd like to change, we're working on those things behind the scenes. I think the biggest issue comes if you're trying to present a shiny, sparkly picture that everything's perfect and that you are somewhere that you're not, when actually you've never really achieved much. jumped into an online coaching certification that was £5, become a certified coach in 2 days, and then you've decided to call yourself a millionaire mentor.
It happens a lot. We see this a lot daily.
I mean, it's really scary, the number of people I've seen popping up, and many of them trying to add me as friends who are calling themselves millionaire mentors, and they're not there. And it's like, just don't, with your messaging, be clear about who you are and who you serve, but don't lie, don't misrepresent, and don't be like, oh, but it's okay because I coach millionaires, so it's okay for me to call myself a millionaire mentor. No, because millionaire mentor means mentoring is you helping someone achieve something that you've done yourself. And that is intentionally misleading and trying to make money from misleading people. And that is something that's just not okay to do in your messaging ever.
No, and you must see that a lot because you're helping so many people with messaging. I only see it from the other side, which is, seeing people shout about how, well, 1 minute they're shouting about how they just made their first 5K, and then 2 minutes later they're a millionaire mentor, and you're like, hold on a minute, what happened there? And I can see why people do it. Like, if I'm going to be non-judgmental about it, which is rare, I will normally be judgmental about it. But if I'm not going to be, then I can see why people do it, because they see other people doing it. And it's like, well, it must be okay because everybody's doing it. Yeah. Everybody's calling themselves this kind of thing. Everyone's exaggerating. So surely it's fine, right? But I think that there are more and more of us talking about why it's not fine. And I know you're among them. And I think that the more we can kind of show people a different way to do things, then that ripple effect goes out there. And honestly, I truly believe that talking about the things, like you talk about messaging, talking about the things that are important to you really does work. One of those things, I talk about integrity all the time. And I always hope that the people that are, that want to come and work with me, the people that I attract, have those same kind of values. You hope by talking about something enough, those kind of people will be attracted to you. And it works, because one of the reasons that you came and worked with me is because of that messaging.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There was no one at the point that I came to work with you. I was so disillusioned with the online coaching space. And, if you hadn't existed, I think I probably would have exited there and then. And I was doing fine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's never about what,
It was like, I'd had enough. And it was you that kind of restored my faith in the online industry, and also made me feel like, what, it's okay to be one of those people that's standing for something and that's standing for doing things the right way. And I no longer felt like I was kind of shouting into the void, because it was like, oh, well, we're both doing this now. Like, we're both, shouting about it. And actually, it's not a void. There are people who are listening, and there are people who align with that. And then the more I started attracting those kinds of people, I was like, oh yeah, I think I can stay.
Yeah, because you will attract the people that want that too. And that's why I think it's so important that we be beacons. So whatever it is that you care about, it doesn't have to be integrity in the industry. You might care about something completely different that you want to shout about in this world. Shout about it, because you will be a beacon for all those people that are looking for someone exactly like you. And I think one of the biggest takeaways I've had from listening to you and other people who talk on messaging is, don't shrink yourself down to become like everybody else. Instead, start talking about the things you really believe in, because they're the people actually that are memorable, because you remember what they're about. Like, barely anyone remembers what people do, but they remember how you make them feel. And if you make them feel like you're for something, you're changing something, you believe in something, then I think that can be really powerful.
Definitely. And I think also that there's a difference between being misleading in your messaging and understanding that based on your experience, you're best equipped to help ABC person. Like, I know loads of people who've been in the corporate space. They've helped 8, 9, 10-figure businesses get to the next level in a certain thing pertinent to their zone of genius. And then they leave the corporate space and they go, if you want to do this, I can help you with this, right? Just because you haven't achieved that yourself doesn't mean you can't help others achieve that. So
absolutely,
you can still be bold about who your clients are, and be clear, I'm here to serve these people, and be unapologetic about that. We just want to always be truthful.
Yeah, be transparent and honest, and it's always going to be the best way. Brilliant. I have loved this conversation. I will always love conversations like this. If there is somebody out there that really needs help with their messaging, they know what they want to get across, but they just can't quite figure out how to say it and how to position themselves, where is the best place for them to find you?
You can find me on Facebook at Jaimie Sarah, Jaimie. My mum was being arty. On Instagram at definitely_definitely. And my website is www.jaimiesarah.com.
Brilliant. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody, for listening every week. It really means a lot to me. I appreciate all of you. And I will be back next week for another episode of Making Money Online. Thank you for listening to Making Money Online with Lisa Johnson. If you'd like to get hold of my guide to launching, go to lisajohnson.com/launch and let's get you making money online.